What does that mean for Anthony Richardson? Could we maybe see him request a trade? A lot of question marks to be answered there. Lastly, let's go ahead and get to some of the top free agent wide receivers that are remaining. Names include Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, and Keenan Allen, of course. Walk us through your top landing spots for some of these names and what really makes sense for them.
All great players, Jordan, all guys north of 30, and all the reasons why they're still available because they're not the players they once were. We saw Amari Cooper struggle a little bit last year at Buffalo to find his footing. Same with Keenan Allen in Chicago, and Steph Diggs got hurt halfway through that season in Houston. But here are some teams that are going to potentially still be in the wide receiver market, and they could help these teams. The Dallas Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb when they traded for Jonathan Mingo a year ago. But they do need some depth there, and any one of these three guys could come in and be sort of security blanket for Dak Prescott. We had conversations about Cooper Kupp potentially going to Dallas. He is now in Seattle. The Raiders, their depth chart is pretty thin at wide receivers. They have Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker, good young players. Jacoby's a little older, been around for a little bit longer than Trey Tucker. And they have Brock Bowers, who might be the best player in the NFL right now, the tight end position. But they do need help for their quarterback, who is now Geno Smith. The Arizona Cardinals have Marvin Smith and Michael Wilson. And then Trey McBride's been really good at the tight end position as well. But again, a veteran presence could come in and help Kyler Murray in that offense. And then finally, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, they have George Pickens. Yes, they traded for DK Metcalf, and they have Pat Freiermuth, the tight end. They do need a number three, an established number three, whether that's Calvin Austin or whether that's going to be Roman Wilson, last year's third-round pick, remains to be seen. But a veteran presence can come in, like a Keenan Allen, and again patrol the middle of the field and be a help for whoever the quarterback ends up being in Pittsburgh. We don't yet know, Jordan.
Yeah, we big question mark there. We will see where those three names and those three receivers land as NFL free agency continues. Ryan Wilson joining me here with the very latest in the NFL on CBS Sports HQ. You can get to the NFL where Lamar Jackson has a new backup quarterback. The Ravens have signed former Cowboys signal caller Cooper Rush. It's a 2-year, $12.2 million deal per multiple reports. After Dak Prescott went down with a season-ending hamstring injury, he started 8 games for Dallas, throwing for 12 touchdowns and 5 picks. With Rush now in Baltimore, the Cowboys will need a new backup quarterback. Will Greer is currently the only other quarterback on the Dallas depth chart, with Trey Lance currently a free agent.
The Atlanta Falcons are keeping Kirk Cousins, triggering a roster bonus of $10 million due in 2026. Cousins was benched last season in Week 16 after a stretch of 9 interceptions and just 1 touchdown pass in 5 games. Falcons owe him $27.5 million this year, whether they keep him or release him. So keeping him as a backup does seem to make some business sense. Senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler is with us. We don't know if a team in desperate need of a quarterback would actually make a deal with Atlanta at those numbers, but we do have another quarterback entering his second season removed from Achilles surgery, and that would be Aaron Rodgers. So what's one word that one of your sources used to describe that situation?
Enigma, Hannah. That was the word used to me when I checked with a source from one of the two teams, Steelers and Giants. Won't say who, but I checked on what the timeline might look like for Rodgers. They sent back a screenshot of the Webster's Dictionary of the word enigma, and that just speaks to the fact that these teams are sort of in a holding pattern, that Rodgers does typically go on his own time. So the feeling is, or at least from what sources have told me, that the Steelers and Giants have offers out to Rodgers, and he's looking at those. The Vikings are sort of on the periphery here, but sources there tell me it's possible but unlikely because of J.J. McCarthy's development. Then you have Russell Wilson. So he visited the Cleveland Browns on Thursday, New York Giants on Friday. Both of those teams remain options for him. I'm told that Wilson has long looked at the Giants as a viable option, kind of seeing that these dominoes could fall a certain way. So if Rodgers slides into, say, Pittsburgh, Wilson would be the most likely quarterback at this point to go to the Giants, although New York can look at other options such as Joe Flacco. I'm told the Cleveland Browns have had some interest in Carson Wentz early on. So once the Rodgers domino falls, some of these other quarterbacks will fall into place.
Yeah, I could see Russ and Sierra, definitely with her music and entertainment career, really enjoying being in a major metropolis like New York. Meanwhile, you told us yesterday that the Bengals are working to sign both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to very expensive contract extensions. So where does that leave the guy who asked for a trade, Trey Hendrickson, 35 sacks over the last 2 seasons, most in the NFL?
Yeah, Hannah, this one's complicated because Hendrickson does want a new contract well above $30 million per year. The Bengals have tried to sign him. They've made him a contract offer, and I'm even told despite trade talks, they've had some reignited discussions with Hendrickson's people over the last few days, but it still hasn't gotten anywhere, and it looks like the Bengals' priorities are those two receivers. That makes it tough for Hendrickson, so he's certainly open to a trade at this point. I'm hearing the Bengals have not been overly eager to accept those trade calls, and they've gotten them to look into it and really seriously entertain a trade here. It seems like they still want to try to find a way to keep him. The question is, do they have the cash to do it? One team I'm watching for, Hannah, the Indianapolis Colts, because there just are a lot of ties to Hendrickson. They need a pass rusher. His former coach at Florida Atlantic, Charlie Partridge, is the D-line coach in Indy. His former defensive coordinator in Cincinnati, Lou Anarumo, is also in Indianapolis.
Wow, we are like connecting the dots season. I love it. Jeremy Fowler, as always, thank you.
Aaron Rodgers' next destination, as well as the landing spot for Russell Wilson. So have we made any movement on the destination for either of these top quarterbacks? Let's go ahead and see if we can get the answer. For that, let's welcome in our own Ryan Wilson for more. Ryan, it's great to see you. Let's go ahead and start with this Steelers quarterback situation. What's their floor right now that they've signed Mason Rudolph? Do they feel pressured to sign someone else with a familiar face right now already under center?
Hey, Jordan. Yes, they absolutely feel pressure. Mason Rudolph, they let walk last year in free agency because they got an upgrade when they moved on from him and Kenny Pickett in the form of Justin Fields and Russ Wilson. So now they're looking to upgrade Russ Wilson and Justin Fields. Justin signed with the New York Jets, so he is no longer an option. Russ is still out there, but I think they have their eyes set on Aaron Rodgers. The issue is that Aaron Rodgers, according to reports, would rather be in Minnesota. And I get that, given how successful Sam Darnold was with Kevin O'Connell last year, and that would be an easy way for Aaron Rodgers to find a winning organization that's really good on both sides of the ball, that can compete in the playoffs and did all the things we saw them do a year ago. The Steelers are in a tougher situation in the same division as the Ravens and, of course, the Bengals. And Steelers are in wait mode. They have to sort of hurry up and wait and decide after Aaron Rodgers makes his plans. And Russ Wilson, who's visited the Browns and the Giants, could say, I'm good on you, Pittsburgh. I'm going to go somewhere else. And then the Steelers will really be in a bad situation because it's either going to be Mason Rudolph or whoever they can draft at pick 21, whether that's trading up or staying put and trying to find a rookie solution there in a quarterback class that is nowhere near as deep as it was a year ago.
You know, I don't want to say I feel bad, but I do kind of low-key feel bad for Russell Wilson because it feels like he's getting the short end of the stick here, just waiting for Aaron Rodgers to find his next destination. So we'll see how it all kind of plays out there. Let's get to the Colts now, who we know signed Daniel Jones to a one-year, $14 million deal to compete with Anthony Richardson, the number 4 overall pick from 2023. Who, in your opinion, right now gives the Colts the best chance to win? Who will be that Week 1 starter?
I think I'm leaning, Jordan, towards Anthony Richardson for all the reasons that he was drafted so high a few years ago. The athleticism just jumps off the page. Now, he's had issues with work ethic when you talk to Shane Steichen and consistency, and that's why he got benched for a little bit last year. But when he's on, and there have been few instances of that because he's been banged up at times, he can be truly special. And when you look at Daniel Jones, what are you getting in Daniel Jones? And you talked about the contract. It's a one-year contract, so that tells you they're not going to be invested in Daniel Jones long-term. And it feels similar to what we saw last year in Minnesota with Sam Darnold, who they brought in on a short-term deal to help with rookie J.J. McCarthy. J.J. ended up getting hurt preseason, and Sam had the season he had and parlayed that into a big payday. But here's where I come down on it. If the Vikings loved Daniel Jones so much, they probably would have kept him and wouldn't be in the market potentially for an Aaron Rodgers for one more year. So I think this is Anthony Richardson's job to lose. Okay. Has he worn out his welcome? I think he has a little bit, but the athleticism and the physical floor is so high that it's hard to pass on him, especially given we know what Daniel Jones looks like when he's been a starter for the New York Giants.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a competition that we will be locked into come training camp time, and it'll be interesting if it is Daniel Jones who is that Week 1